Look, Levan Saginashvili is the best. Alright, well, if he's not the best, then he is undoubtedly one of the best of all time, at the very minimum. But why? What is it that goes into Levan and pushes him to such a higher status than 99.99999% of the global population? It isn't drugs. Well, it isn't only drugs. Obviously, a lot of people are going to say that all the top level athletes are on the top level doses. This might be true, but this is not the point of discussion here. What if there were no drugs? Would Levan still be that top tier athlete? I think so. See, I have no proof, but I expect Levan and most of the other top level athletes in arm wrestling did not enter arm wrestling already bursting at the seams with cocktails of hormones and God knows what else. I think there was something else about these athletes that carried them from there to a place where these cocktails may become a sensible option. If you enter your first competition and get slaughtered, do you have much hope of being the best? Well, here's the first hurdle. The first filter to weed out the best from the rest. If you lose and give up immediately, you clearly don't have the drive or desire to progress, so you won't be the best. But if you do lose and you keep on trying, well, you've already proven that you aren't a quitter right off the bat, and that puts you over a large majority of people. Alternatively, you might do well at your first competition. Then the likelihood of you wanting to continue is higher, but not certain. You might get bored or have other commitments. But let's say that you continue training. Do you actually improve? The first option, yes, you improve, and you move on to the next competition. The second option, no, you don't improve and you give up because of it. The third option, yes, you improve, but you give up, again from boredom, commitment, or all sorts of other reasons. The fourth option, no, you don't improve, but you don't give up. You're stubborn and determined to keep on trying. Of these four, which do you think have potential to become the best? Probably not 2 or 3, since they've given up. But 1 and 4, well, 1 has shown genetic potential. He's either lucky in choices or is the type of person who benefits from basically any kind of training system. And 4, well, 4 is not so lucky and may not be a genetic phenom, but 4 has proven pretty well in spite of this just how determined he is to improve. He might find a better system of training that does reveal his genetic elite, or he may have to brute force through it all. Either way, he is proceeding onwards. Which of these is Levan? Well, probably both, the best kind of athlete to be. He gets the advantage of being a genetic specimen who just soaks up training and progresses, while also holding the stubborn determination to keep on pushing. These are the mindsets and the genetic structures that reach the top and beyond. But let's look at some more physical reasons why Levan is the best. Height. He is not the tallest athlete, but he's well into the realm of height which seems to separate the best from the rest. He's well over 6 feet or 190 centimeters tall. He's not one of those lightweight pound for pound people. Literally at somewhere between 170 and 180 kilograms, or perhaps even more at this point. He is probably one of the heaviest athletes in all sports, excluding things like sumo. His fellow Georgian too, Lasha Talakadze, at 197 centimeters or 6'6", and also around 180 kilograms, is another giant super heavyweight, who is again the current and perhaps all-time greatest weightlifter. Unfortunately, height does matter, and being massive at that height does a pretty good job of cementing your eligibility for greatness. Frame. Aside from being just tall and heavy, just look at him. He's not a lanky, nimble-looking basketball player or a massive blob of adipose tissue. Even at his lighter, younger stages, he looked solid as an oak stump. There is definitely some cavish gorilla blood circulating in those veins. Actually, I have a video in the works on some possible origins for Levan's genetics, so make sure to subscribe if you want to hear more about that. Look at his hands. These are not normal people's hands. These hands crush normal people's hands and make ketchup out of the remains. Look at his hands in the younger pictures. The meat has grown, but the bones are already freakishly large at an early age, and her wrists look like extensions of his forearm. This is not drugs, not even growth hormone unless he was sipping it in the womb. So he's got the attitude, he's got the weight, the height, and the frame. Let's look at the social conditions. He's from Georgia. Now, nothing against Georgia, but like most of the world outside Central Europe and the USA, life can be more challenging there, especially if you aren't at least a little bit rich. In the more lavish countries, you can just about squeak by doing very little. It might not be a fun life, but you probably could keep on living. But in places like Georgia, Bulgaria, Russia, Ukraine, or basically the rest of the world, life can be very difficult without an income. So for Levan, living in Georgia and still devoting the time required to excel in the sport, you can tell that either the time required is very little for him, since he is such a genetic phenom, or that he has such a conviction and interest in the sport that he is willing to throw whatever he can into it. And then, even given the conditions he is training through, he has emerged at a top level as an athlete. So clearly people around him are seeing that it might be worthwhile allowing him to keep on doing what he is doing rather than tell him to stop wasting his time. And now he's pulled into the top level limelight because the rest of the world has recognized his potential. So despite the conditions he trained through, he has made it through the top and is able to keep on doing what he always wanted to. Let's end on that other thing, drugs. Is Levan pumped full of hormones? Does it matter? He would very likely still be one of, if not the best, if drugs were not in the equation. But if hypothetically he was pumped full of hormones, does it matter? Anybody can be pumped full of hormones, and there are probably plenty of people taking more and higher doses than this hypothetical Levan may or may not be. So either hypothetical Levan wins a genetic lottery here too as a much better responder to these drugs, or the drugs themselves only help to elevate him to the playing field of other hypothetical pancake princes. At which point the rest of his genetic and mental and societal and basically just the whole kitchen drawer of advantages take over and just beat everybody else ever in existence. So yes, Levan is a genetic freak. Next news at 5 with Pradeep. He may or may not be a pancake prince, but he is still a prince in all of our hearts. So why is Levan the best? Well, because he's Levan Saginashvili, and nobody else is. It's not an X factor or a Y factor acting in isolation from any other. It's each of these individual strings coming together to form the behemoth puppet that Levan is. Will there be better athletes? Probably. Make any sport with a set of requirements, and eventually the world will present the people who work best within those requirements. It's very simple and cruel. But one ideal characteristic alone is not enough to place you higher than somebody else with two. Having the world's largest hand will get you far, but without the rest of the strength and the mentality to keep on pulling, it won't carry you all the way. And that's it. Like, subscribe, comment how many pancakes you think you could eat in one sitting. Actually, Levan probably wouldn't be a pancake prince. Being a Georgian, he'd be a King Kali king. Oh well, whatever. I'll see you next time.